Alright people, it's Thirsty Thursday. The Brews at 10 on my left eye. Solidari-Tea everyone. I'm your host Lefty, I hope you're all doing very well tonight. A big warm welcome. And we've got Chris and Hetty in the chat already. Great to see you. Chris, I believe that's twice in a row. Being first in, good work. Great stuff. Hope you're brewing nicely. I don't often do streams on a Thursday, you might have noticed. But I did promise more content, more live streams, and here we are. Thanks for chucking up the Palestine flags in the chat as well, Hetty. Solidarity with Palestine as always. Here on my left eye, a channel that's all about politics and society from a left-wing perspective, point of view. So I'll just be catching up on a couple of stories. I didn't have time to get onto yesterday's live stream. Of course, we were following the double bill of PMQs in the spring statement from Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. And there's been a lot of pushback against that, so that's going to be the main staple of catching up with that tonight. Before we get onto that though, please do make sure that you've absolutely walloped the like button. Yes, please do hit thumbs up, share around your social media. And if you're not following us already, available on Blue Sky, Mastodon and Twitter. And there's been a big announcement today from JSO as well. I'll be talking a little bit about that. So yeah, lots of ways you can help to spread the stream on the algorithm. If you're watching back on a replay, please do add a comment in the comment section just down below there. Mobius, a pleasure as always. Hope you're having a thirsty Thursday. Yeah, great to see you guys, the old brew crew coming in. I know unfortunately I'm clashing with other well-known socialist streams tonight, but thanks for joining me. Right, I'll give an obligatory thanks to all of the members and supporters of the channel, the Super Brew crew. Yeah, thanks everyone. Got to update that list again today. So a warm welcome to new members as well. thanks a lot for the gifted memberships yesterday. Really appreciate that, people. And join this list and enjoy the perks. It's just 99 pence. Take a look at the perks. You should be able to see that button just underneath the screen. Heady, I'm pleased to report that, that went quite very quickly, didn't it? As expected. The Bruv party, yeah. With the Andrew Tate douche. No, that's been very quiet. Haven't heard a whisper. We've been hearing lots about other things, though. There's still all that stuff about the security breach in America. That's another story. Don't want to get distracted though. Thanks a lot to all the members. Let's bring you up in the chat box. There we go. And just readjust things. Oh, you're getting a new allotment there, Mo. And you're doing an article about it for a newsletter. The deadline's in the morning. So yeah, time for a break, time for a brew. Whatever drink you prefer. Keep us posted on that. By the way, do go and follow Mobius's channel on YouTube, especially if you've got green fingers for the horticultural viewers. Sorry, I'm getting a bit distracted here. There's a bit of a wind picking up outside tonight, and one of the windows in the room I'm streaming from is a bit whistly. Heady, wow, fantastic contribution there. 10 gifted memberships. Thank you very much for that. And that gives me also a reason to bring up the membership goal, and I'm very pleased to be able to change that to 77 now. Thanks a lot, Heady. Solidari-Tea, brother. I hope the 10 recipients enjoy the perks there. I can see some familiar names as well as some new ones. It's Beardo's fault. I believe that's a new one. And if any of you are viewing live, please do let us know. Heady, raising a mug to you. Thank you very much. Also, a long-term member. Thanks for sticking around. So yes, the pushback against Rachel Reeves' spring statement started more or less immediately. There was a debate session in the House of Commons after yesterday's statement, which we sort of went through in full. She did mention the word deliver, or slight variants upon it, some 21 times, was it? 22? A lot. Considering the thing was about half an hour long. That's averaging just over one every minute. Although it was a solo show, it wasn't a running contest. There were a few black holes in there. But the backlash, like I said, began immediately in the House of Commons. We'll see a couple of examples of that. And the former leader of the Labour Party, the Right Honourable Independent Member for North Islington North, I should call it, was on Sophie Ridge on Sky the other day, so I'll be having a look at that. I've not seen the interview in full, I've seen a few clips. I know that he was very critical of the current Labour leadership and the party. And I believe she tried to throw a few curveballs at him, but he handled them very nicely, from what I've heard. So that'll be the main staple of this catch-up. I'll be trying to bring you as many Thirsty Thursdays as it was. It's subcategories within subcategories now on the Brews at 10 and on my left eye in general. So we're going to start with someone who I'm sure is very familiar to viewers. Currently standing as an independent, having had the whip removed. MP for Coventry South, I believe. Coventry South. It is, I'm pretty sure. Zara Sultana always gives great speeches, performances at rallies and on the media and in the House of Commons as well. Career-long fighter for social justice as well as ceasefire in Gaza, so she's appalled by these cuts and how they're going to impact low earners and the disabled especially. So I'm going to kick off with a bit from Zara and then move on to JC.
The UK is the 6th richest country in the world, yet over 1 in 3 children and 25% of adults live in poverty. Since Labour came into power, 25,000 more children have been pushed into poverty due to the 2-child benefit cap. And now, according to the government's own impact assessment, over 250,000 people will be pushed into poverty as a result of these cuts, including 50,000 children. So I asked the Chancellor, who earns over £150,000 annually, has accepted £7,500 worth of free clothing, and recently took freebie tickets to see Sabrina Carpenter. Does she think Austerity 2.0 is the change people really voted for?
There's nothing.
Yeah, just before we hear the response as opposed to the answer, that's a perfectly, valid point. But also, where Reeves is concerned, with these gifts and whatnot, there have been more revelations lately, like we pointed out recently, and she was absolutely squirming on the news earlier, as if she'd been forced into going. I think it was on Good Morning Britain. They tried to make a promise that she wouldn't take any more free gifts, and she tried to tiptoe around it, and it was just so bad and so awkward. And again, yeah, these are the so-called tough choices.
Progressive, and there's nothing Labour about pouring more money into a broken system. Under the changes that we're bringing about, we're going to help young people who are not in education, employment or training by giving them targeted support. And as I set out in the statement earlier, the OBR so far have not scored any of the Back to Work programme, which is the biggest Back to Work programme that we've seen for many, many years. They're going to do that work over the autumn. But we know that the best way to lift people out of poverty is to get them into good work, secure work, paying a decent wage. We're increasing the national living wage, so it will go up by £1,400 for someone working full-time from next month, as well as the Employment Rights Bill, which ensures that people will have security at work. That's the difference that this Labour government is making.
No, that's deluded bullshit. People are going to be £1,400 worse off. She's just stalling for time, really. Yeah, it was Country South. I hope that she does stay as an independent though. Yeah, it's all well and good for people on salaries that Rachel Reeves is on. Tough choices, people. She probably is blushing. Yeah. Do you like Zara Sultana? She'd still win a seat as an independent, I'm quite certain of that. I've said that a few times before, I think. Yeah, and Reeves isn't the greatest actress that's ever been. There's definitely a lot of blushing in there. And did you see this sort of promotion video of her walking down corridors and between buildings, and you know, this real sort of determined walk, this determined gait that she had in her attempt to look, you know, very strong and stable. Oh yeah, it was bad. And they talk about having to cut this and cut that, and there isn't enough money for X and Y and Z, but they spend millions of taxpayer money on this media team that they've got. I think maybe it's about time they started thinking about cutting that, you know, instead of winter fuel payments and PIP. Jeff Gates, glad you're enjoying the membership there. Thanks a lot for your comment. And yeah, someone else who has a view on My Left Eye with direct evidence of how they've been affected by these cuts. So thanks for sharing that with us, Jeff. Hope you're doing well. All things considered, and I certainly know, as well as anyone, that Rachel Reeves isn't trying to do anything to help people like Jeff or others who rely on PIP. So thanks again for that. So this is going to ultimately just, as well as inflict more suffering onto lots of people, politically as well. This is just going to absolutely kill Labour, and it's frightening to think there's a realistic chance of the far right newcomers, as it were, Farage's reform having a pretty decent run in the next general election, which is a thought I don't even want to consider right now, people. But let's stick with those who do know what's right, who do have a moral compass, they do have a conscience. And they're calling out Reeves for what she is. So this was Corbyn's contribution in the House after the announcement.
4.3 million children living in poverty in our society. There are 1.2 million people in receipt of PIP who are about to lose it following her statement last week. She's put a huge amount of money into defence. Could she not think for a moment of reversing the decision last week to take £5 billion out of the welfare budget, and end the two-child benefit cap, which has driven so many children and families into really desperate poverty.
I'm not going to make any apologies for putting more money in defence. This Labour government takes defence of our country seriously, and so we should. We are the party that created NATO, and under the leadership of the Labour Party today, we will always defend our country.
Wow. Wow, appalling response, you know. And she's a bit rattled there as well, is Reeves. He certainly hits a nerve with that question. As if it's such a clear-cut choice between things like the winter fuel payment, which he brought up, and defence spending. It's not the binary choice that Reeves and Starmer are trying to lay out. Yes, and Jeff, please accept my condolences as well. Sorry to hear about that. Okay, that was just a short clip, but I'm going to play the full interview conducted by Sky's Sophie Ridge now, most of which is going to be new to me. I've seen a few 15-20 second snippets here and there. So let's dive straight in, people.
Thank you very much for being on the programme. It's great to speak to you.
My pleasure.
So we've, of course, got the spring statement tomorrow. What are you hoping to see?
What I would hope, which may not be fulfilled, but I would hope would be a raising of the tax threshold above 12,000 to take the poorest people out of taxation altogether. Obviously, a consequential shift at the top end, so that would be a redistribution. And I'd hope that the Chancellor would think again on the, I think, terrible statement last week about cutting personal independence payments and the consequential cuts that go with it. Also looking at the levels of poverty in our society amongst large families and lift the two-child benefit cap as a start.
On benefits, you know, you've always been an MP who's been very connected to your constituency in Islington North. What kind of impact will it have if they do go through with these changes?
Well, on personal independence payments, it will be huge because the numbers of people that get them are large. They have great difficulty in applying for them. Usually they have to get them after an appeal because the first application is refused, and then they often have to reapply to keep getting them. And so it's difficult, but they're absolutely essential. They're providing the personal care for people, they're providing the mobility for people, and in reality, if you take away personal independence payments by cutting $5 billion from them, that means that somebody has got to care for those people. Who's it going to be? Usually women in families who will give up jobs in order to care for somebody. There's already...
Excellent point there. Excellent point there from Corbyn. Rainy day. Great to see you. Good evening. Hope you're doing well. And that's certainly an element that Corbyn mentions. That's not good for the economy, obviously. What stimulates is an economy, the precious economy, the sacred economy, is people working. And if the support isn't there, then as he says, people are going to have to drop out of jobs to take care of the disabled. And one of the words that's a massive elephant in the room is people are being disenfranchised. That's what's happening. The disabled are being disenfranchised before our very eyes. That's what this policy does. That's what Starmer's Labour mantra is. It's neoliberalism on crack. It's the scary ghost of Thatcher. Yeah. Let's carry on. That's a really good point.
Wholly disproportionate level of poverty amongst families with even one person who's disabled in it. When you come across a family with 2 or 3 special needs children and disability with it, the poverty is appalling.
I guess what the government would say is, because of the size of the benefits bill, we spend more on working age benefits than we do on education, and the fact that we're an outlier, we've got more people claiming particularly these kind of disability benefits than in other countries. They've got to do something and make sure that it's only the people who really need the payments that get them.
But by simply saying they're going to take $5 billion out of PIP, personal independence payments, then they're just taking a global figure out, knowing full well what the consequences could be. Now, are benefits rising? Yes. Now, some of that is in work benefits because people have large families and the wage levels are too low.
Yeah, it's kind of putting a little bit of one thing in one hand and taking a whole chunk of lots of things out of the other as well. Another point that has also crossed my mind about all this is how long people have to wait for these assessments and for the payments to come through in the first place. I'm sure that perhaps people watching right now or back in replay will know just how long these applications take. Could you imagine? You might have applied months and months ago, in some cases years, to get these payments. Only at the last moment for Rachel Reeves to come in and announce this policy and just snatch it away from you. Just when it was looking like there was going to be some hope. Because people are really, really struggling at the moment. And when we say dependent on these payments, when we say relying on these payments, it's not hyperbolic, it's not dramatic. It's the bare bones of the truth of the crisis. But Rachel Reeves thinks that this will suddenly make people who couldn't physically work before somehow, by some miracle, then be able to get up and go and do a shift wherever. Yeah. It's good to see him being able to speak so openly against them now that he's an independent as well. That's one of the refreshing things, one of the good things about him winning his seat as an independent last year.
In some cases, it is the mental health crisis that affects this country. Now, the mental health crisis is there. I see it every day. It comes from stress, work, poverty, housing. It comes from lots of things, and it comes from a great difficulty in getting any mental health support. So when Rachel Reeves said that she wanted to put more money into mental health services, I agree, absolutely agree. When Wes Streeting said the same, I absolutely agree. But you have to put that in order to reduce the levels of stress within our society. And so making these global figures and global assumptions also becomes a sort of anti-benefit thing. Listen, we live, I hope, in a welfare state where we don't leave anybody behind. But it's beginning to look like we do.
The other thing as well is that because of the fiscal situation, Rachel Reeves has asked departments to model spending cuts, or at least real-term spending cuts. Is this austerity? Would it be austerity?
Well, I'm very sure the words austerity will not.
It's austerity, Sophie. It's austerity.
But in reality, if you're saying you're going to take figures, I've heard 7%, I've heard other figures, out of a department's budget, what does that mean? You can't do all that by efficiency. That means jobs being lost, or it means services being cut, or it means both. And if you start taking 7% out of a school budget, what does it mean? The teaching assistants go, the teacher then is teaching a mixed ability class with great difficulty. And so the real effects of all this are on the needs of children, the needs of people with disability, the needs of the poorest.
So
we want a society surely where we include people.
So is it?
Well, but that's too much for Sophie Ridge. I'm not sure what she's going to interject with here. I just wanted to point out as well, it's great to see the international audience expanding. Rainy Day joining us from South Texas. Greetings from the UK. My Left Eye's coming from Manchester to you this evening. Yeah, always great to touch base with people across the pond.
Because you're right, they won't call it austerity. They will believe it's efficiency or spending taxpayers' money.
I have seen this next bit in a clip. Great response from Corbyn here. The debate over whether this is or isn't austerity, which it quite clearly is, of course. But Corbyn nails it right on the head here with this one.
Why is it? Do you call it austerity?
Yes, I do, because it is basically a role of austerity in reducing the levels of public expenditure at the expense of the poorest within our society.
Exactly, and that is the exact definition of it. And that is one of the problems with journalism, especially with British journalism, which is one of the least trusted in Europe at the moment and has been for some time. I could go on at length, ad nauseum, about the many reasons for that, but just specifically here, it's almost as though they don't have access to dictionaries, and you see so much discourse, you see so much debate and incitement of debate over whether something which is happening is this word or it's that. Is it that word? Is it austerity? Is it this? You're journalists. I'm assuming that you have some sort of affiliation with the English language. Look it up. Look it up in a dictionary. And if the scenario matches the description in the dictionary, then it's reasonable to assume that it is that thing. But they don't have the expertise to even think about that, apparently. So is this austerity? I mean, come on. It's difficult not to throw out old school phrases, you know, like wake up, but they really do need to wake up. I mentioned yesterday how there's so much client journalism going on at the moment. Yeah, but, you know, this is a big broadcaster. This is Sky News, obviously. You go up the chain, and that's owned by oligarchs who would obviously be subjected to the real solution to the problem if the man on your screens right now was Prime Minister. Because the likes of Rupert Murdoch would be getting taxed their fair share, which they really aren't at the moment. Not by sight. So there you go. That's why certain agencies, certain mainstream media outlets really do have to contest and criticise the idea of taxing the super wealthy.
Listen, we've got a grossly unequal society. Nobody who's super rich really wants to pay more tax. I understand that, but I do think they should.
But if
So
they won't,
a wealth tax would be a really good idea.
Can I ask as well, how much, you know, I'm sure you speak to some of your former Labour colleagues, how much disquiet are you picking up?
So just very quickly again, sorry to pause again, so soon after the last one. She didn't even entertain taxing the super wealthy there. Just a sort of a chuckle. Oh yes, so that old thing. Right, let's move on. So what's your favourite thing to put on a sandwich, Mr. Corbyn? You know, just talk about anything but that.
Well, I speak to a lot of Labour members of Parliament, increasingly since the election. To begin with, they weren't very keen on talking to me, but as the months have gone by, there's...
Some people are answering your phone now, are they? Like, pick up the
come
phone.
over. Hi, how you doing? How's it going? How you doing? So I'm doing fine, thanks. How about you? Oh, no, they're very upset because they ran for election on, albeit a very limited manifesto, but that manifesto did not include cuts in benefits. It did not include...
It wasn't worth the paper it was written on.
Didn't it? That's what they're saying.
And I think Jeremy knows that as well, yeah.
Fiscally responsible, and that was what they stood on.
Fiscal responsibility
Liars.
can mean lots of things. My idea of fiscal responsibility is, yes, you raise the money you need to provide the services you need to provide, but you also look at the effects on the social makeup of your society of the decisions you make. So responsibility can be lots of things. It doesn't always mean cutting and hitting the poorest. And I get alarmed when they tell me these are very hard decisions. It's hard decisions when you can't.
Alarmed is one word. I get absolutely enraged when they say it's a difficult decision or a tough choice. It's a very easy choice for them to just burden the poor. They're not sweating over it. They're not losing any sleep over it, because they're on very good salaries and they're also taking bungs left, right and centre and freebies.
Can't feed your family.
Some in Team Starmer would probably point to the fact that you took Labour to their worst loss since World War II, and if you're not happy with something, maybe it means they're doing the right thing.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to have an aneurysm. How many times since 2019 have I had to point this out? And again, they don't know the plain facts. These are supposed to be professional journalists. In terms of seat losses, the greatest Labour loss was Gordon Brown. Lost a record 91 seats. Corbyn lost about 50. He still, in the election that he didn't win in 2019, got more votes, as in individual votes, than Starmer, Blair, Miliband, several of his recent predecessors as they were then. And in 2017, they had the best run in opposition for some time as well. So all this, 2019 was the worst election for Labour since forever, or since World War II, with that stat. It's just a lie. It's a misrepresentation of the truth. And we all know why that happened. I won't go into the ins and outs of that. I've done content on that quite a few times ever since the channel was created. And please do check that out if you want to get my opinions on that. But this, on a macro scale, is an attempt to trash socialism by embodying socialism into one person, Jeremy Corbyn. And that is why you'll hear the word Corbynism mentioned in the mainstream press 1,000 times before you will the word socialism. And if they vilify this man, then in their minds, then that just completely sweeps the concepts of socialism under the carpet, which is not only deluded, because socialist policies are still very popular within the public. Overall, we do have a generally left-leaning public. We just don't have the political vehicle at the moment, the means. And we know the reasons why. Because as soon as there's any threat to the establishment, all the dirty tricks start coming out, and we saw that happening. We definitely saw that with Corbyn.
Well, if he cared to look again at the manifesto on which he stood, by the way, in 2019, we were going to address homelessness. We were going to address rent levels. We were going to address poverty in society. There was a clear plan there.
I'm interested you just said
yeah,
that,
look at what you could have won.
That he stood on that manifesto as well. Do you think he's...
Well, he seems to...
He's a liar, but this guy is genuine. Obviously, he's not a careerist the same way Starmer is. It's not establishment, far from it.
Inequalities in our society. Poverty is a terrible waste.
Do you think he's a bit of a shapeshifter?
Waste of resources and waste of talent.
Do you think he's a bit of a shapeshifter then? Is that what
yes.
Well, what's a shapeshifter? I'm not really
Smell
sure.
the coffee,
a
Sophie.
chameleon.
Of course he is.
Chameleons, there's a lot of chameleons in Parliament, oh yes. But listen, it is about how a government should approach the society we're living in. If you're content with the levels of poverty we've got, the numbers of food banks we've got, the levels of underachievement in school, brought about in part by poverty and housing. Okay, if you're happy with that, that's your view. I'm not. I don't believe most Labour MPs are happy with that. So they should recognise that this is their opportunity to do something fundamental. Seems to me they're trying to pass the buck.
And I think there's some undertone in that he's hinting that they should go the same way he did. There have been calls for a lot of people to say that this is really beyond the pale now and drawn a line in the sand, and said that they should quit. It's all well and good making statements in the House of Commons if there's not going to be any kind of serious threat whatsoever to Starmer or Reeves, then they'll just carry on regardless. But also the tragic downside to that is in following the moral principles and distancing themselves from Starmer, from Labour, under its neoliberal guise, as it is at the moment, they also fall into his plan to completely rid the party of any genuine socialists or anyone with a decent moral compass, and just wants to surround himself by obedient lackeys. So yeah, it's not really great whichever way you slice it. Excuse me.
You've spoken a lot about Gaza. It's an issue that you have a long-standing interest in. What do you make on the Labour government's current position when it comes to the war?
Well, they started off by not supporting any kind of call for a ceasefire. They then resisted any claims that we were making about the use of British weapons by Israel in Gaza, and then belatedly suspended some licenses, but still supplying parts for the F-35, and now are saying they're appalled about what's going on in Gaza. I think they've been well behind the curve on everything and seem not to understand the sheer carnage that's going on before our very eyes, where you're watching the same television as I am. You're seeing the bombardment of rubble as an act of vengeance for no purpose whatsoever. Let's reinstate the ceasefire that had been agreed between Hamas and Israel, that had been agreed. There was a possibility of a way forward. We've lost, what, 70,000 people already in this conflict? How many more?
It's going to be, the official figures are going to be a lot more than that. There's still so many unaccounted for under the rubble as the refugees have moved across the entire Gaza Strip whilst under bombardment and been kettled in. Now, it's impossible to know, but it's definitely, I would say, way over 100,000. What's Sophie Ridge going to come back with? Are we going to hear the old, well, Israel would deny that line?
Now, there'll be some who, I'll be honest, think I shouldn't be interviewing you on Gaza because you're expelled from Labour after a highly critical report by the Equality and Human Rights Watchdog about anti-Semitism in the Labour Party.
I was not expelled for anti-Semitism.
Yeah, I was just about to go, whoa. He was expelled because he formed his own party, which is against Labour Party rules, and that's why he's not forming his own party. He's stood as an independent. Yeah, he wasn't. Come on, Sophie. That was low, even by these standards. That was low.
About after your response to the report from the Equalities and Human Rights Watchdog about anti-Semitism in the Labour Party under your watch, they say that they were concerned by lack of leadership in the Labour Party on those issues.
As well as a dictionary, they seem somewhat without a calendar, because all of this stuff has been exposed and debunked in things like the Labour Files, the Ford Report. Do you not have access to those? I could email them to you. Whatever, Sophie Ridge at Sky, whatever. I mean, come on. Really? And the whole bit about, some people think that I shouldn't even be interviewing you. You know, you're a dangerous man. This is... it's pathetic. It really is. And I hope that you can all hear me over the sound of the scraping of the bottom of a barrel. But that really is something from Sophie Ridge. She is taking the piss, Octo. Yeah, you're quite right.
And what would you say to that?
Two things. One is anti-Semitism is an evil, and one anti-Semite in any party is one too many, and I said that at the time. What I did say, and I stand by, was that many of the claims were made were actually fallacious claims that were not borne out by any facts or any investigation. There wasn't.
True. 80% of a lot of the claims were made by one person. There was so much for outrage out there, so much manufacturing of this. I mean, again, I could go on ad infinitum, but it's something that I've brought up before on the channel quite a lot. I'm sure we're all familiar with this scam. It was a scam. That's as succinctly as I can put that, people.
Exaggeration of them. However, I'm stand by the issue that anti-Semitism is an evil within our society in exactly the same way Islamophobia is an evil within our society. What's going on in Gaza is a crime against humanity, as the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court and the Geneva Convention on the responsibilities of occupying powers have shown.
Would you like to rejoin Labour one day?
Listen, Labour expelled me when I stood as an independent because I was told that when I asked if I could apply to be the Labour candidate for Islington North, they said no, so I was expelled from the Labour Party.
Exactly, and considering how long this guy's been the Member of Parliament for Islington North, since the 1980s, 1984, and he's been a member of the Labour Party since the 1960s, I believe. That's case in point for where we've seen Starmer parachuting in candidates to replace previously elected MPs, and it's an affront to democracy. Fair play to him there for standing his ground and speaking the truth about that, and also what he was saying previously about the violations in Gaza as well, which again have just completely flown over Ridge's head. She doesn't want to go into that in detail, even though he pointed out, you know, they've seen the same footage, they see the same things. It's just that Sophie's on the side that turned a blind eye, and Jeremy Corbyn sees it for what it is. I am an independent MP. I was elected with a good majority by my constituency, and I work hard representing my constituency. I'm going to carry on doing that as an independent, working with independents all over the country. And I'm not a different person. I'm the same person who believes in socialism and social justice and human rights and environmental sustainability. Oh, the S word, panic, panic. There's alarms going off in the production booth there, I'll bet. And he said the S word. He said, get him off. Get him off.
That's what I am.
So is it the Labour Party that's changed, you think?
The Labour Party in government is an enormous disappointment. I never thought I'd hear the day when a Chancellor would get up and say they're taking £5 billion out of the income of the very poorest disabled people in our society. It is a disgrace.
Do you think it's...
It is a disgrace, and he should, where rejoining the Labour Party is concerned, they can absolutely stick it up their arse.
Recognisable from the party that you led?
Not really. The policies in government have changed so much. It is very depressing. And even when the bills they produce are moving in the right direction, like the Workers' Rights Bill, which I actually voted for in the House, it didn't bring back what I think should have come back, was a sectoral bargaining. The Renters' Bill is a good bill as far as it goes, but it doesn't deal with the fundamental issue of excessive private sector rents, and so there's no rent control within it.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah, they didn't have time to go onto the housing issue in full there, but obviously Starmer's been banging on about 1.5 million new homes. whether they're, you know, it's going to be the same old story. That's just going to prop up private enterprises. It's not going to be social housing. Good to see him actually getting a chance there. That's not the worst interview we've ever seen with him on mainstream media. Of course, when he politically was posing a threat to the establishment, that is, with the position that he had, the interviews were a lot more seething and ruthless than that one was. But she still couldn't help going back to some of those old tropes, could she really? But yeah, he does live rent-free in a lot of people's heads. So what do you think about that, people? Let me know in the chat. I'm going to have a quick look at what you're saying. Let me know in the comments as well if you're watching back on replay. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button on the stream, people. Yes, we've got a doctor in the house. Doc Davies, great to see you. Corbyn is a good man indeed. Certainly is. I do know that one or two of our viewers actually live in his constituency as well. Morbius, yes, being an example of one of those. I was very, very confident that he'd get re-elected as well. I think that was very important as well. That was very fundamental, just to sort of show how it's not that easy to get rid of, you know, the concept of socialism, to get rid of it just by vindicating one person. Also, it was a good example in the sense that Corbyn said, well, others may follow, to show that it's not impossible. Because that is the normal thing in politics. People who stand down, they might later stand as independents. In the overwhelming majority of cases, they lose the seats. Or they don't regain the seats, that is. Whether it be in a general election or a by-election. Peter Doyle, great to see you. Yeah, glad to see you're enjoying the membership as well. Check out some of the perks. There's some exclusive content in there, and more to come as well. So I'm going to be doing at least one exclusive members only video from now on the stream. Thanks for all your contributions. And that was more refreshing to see something like that, even though it, you know, was on mainstream media. Always great to see interviews with Corbyn as well. So yeah, these critics from within Labour, I think, either need to, if you'll pardon my language, they need to shit or get off of the pot. They need to vote with their feet. That might include certain MPs. I know that Clive Lewis is one who's been very, very critical. It's make or break time, people. These are the times we're living in. What a time to be alive. I'm going to get on to another quick story now. So how best to introduce this? So long-term viewers will know that I'm a political and environmental activist, including with Just Stop Oil. So now it's actually been publicly announced. I'm sort of at liberty to mention this. Although I do have to remind you, this channel is not an official JSO sports channel or anything like that. But there's been an announcement today about the action phase that was due to come up next month in April. And it's pretty big news. It's pretty big news where JSO is concerned, so strap yourselves in, people.
3 years after bursting on the scene in a blaze of orange, at the end of April, the Just Stop Oil campaign will be hanging up the high vis. Just Stop Oil's demand to end new oil and gas is now government policy, making us one of the most successful civil resistance campaigns in recent history. We've kept 4.4 billion barrels of oil in the ground, and the courts have ruled new oil and gas unlawful. But it's time to change. We are heading for 2 degrees of global heating in the coming decade, which will result in billions being killed, mass civil unrest and social collapse. Meanwhile, corporations and billionaires are buying political power and using it to punch down on the weak and the vulnerable. We are creating a new strategy to face this reality and to carry out our responsibilities at this time. Nothing short of a revolution is going to protect us from the coming storms. We are calling on everyone who wants to be a part of building the new resistance to join us for the final Just Stop Oil action in Parliament Square on April the 26th. See you on the streets.
Yes, that's right, people. That will be the last hurrah, as it were, for Just Stop Oil. However, the fight for social justice, environmental justice will continue, of course, just in other guises. And yet, having taken multiple actions, been involved with media and other elements as well over the last, well, goodness me, going on 3 years now, people. Yeah, I'm very proud of what's been achieved. I'm very proud to have been a part of it. And as was mentioned in the video there, I won't mention a name because it wasn't in the video, so not sure if they want that to remain anonymous. But as they pointed out, the primary objective of no new fossil fuel licences, oil, coal and gas, was achieved. It was a sociological move. All of the opposition parties prior to the election had that in their manifestos. We can debate about how they might stick to those manifestos, however it was there. And as was mentioned there, billions of barrels of oil have been kept in the ground because of that. Billions. So yeah, that's the latest news. I won't go off on a tirade or anything, but yeah, please do let me know your thoughts about that. That certainly doesn't mean an end to campaigns or anything like that, but if you want to find out more, do check out the website juststopoil.org. You heard the details about what's happening in London there. If you happen to be in the area, then why not drop by and see what's happening, people. Who knows, you might bump into your humble host at some point. One final thing I want to get on to. It's going to be a slightly shorter stream tonight, people. Please do hang around though. Bear with me, I've got to get this queued up. Just got to bring it into the broadcast software now. Sorry to have to do this live. Decided to just sneak this one in as well. It's not so much a comedy clip, well, it depends on which way you look at it, really. A lot of us, I'm sure, are familiar with the exploding heads and Colin from Portsmouth, but this is an actual clip from LBC, where it's difficult to see any distinction between that fantastic parody character and the living, breathing gammons that phone in to this talk show. Super, hope you're doing well. And Kira as well, thanks a lot for throwing up the static emojis. Hope you're brewing nicely tonight. But let me know what you think about it. It's a get a load of this guy clip. It's one of those clips. Sorry, I'll just have to throw it in and pause it quickly while I readjust the sizing.
Where to live.
I'll try and do that quite hastily. Well, it speaks for itself. Let me know what you think at the end of it. So this is Ben Kentish, who's the host, and it's about PIP payments and people who are on benefits and, you know, the vilification of people who claim benefits. And yeah, I'm struggling to know what to say. I'll just play it. Speaks for itself.
Where to live. I see lots of people driving brand spanking new PIP cars. There doesn't look that much wrong with them. The people who I work with, Romanians, Albanians, there's not that many English. I just don't get why half of these people what I see who've got PIP cars, and I'm not.
But how do you know they're on benefits?
Pardon?
So are you saying the people driving fancy cars are on benefits?
I can tell. I know straight away what a PIP car looks like.
What's a PIP car?
Personal independence payment car.
What does a PIP car look like?
The way he was being sarcastic then, like a surly kid. You know, it means a personal independence payment car. Duh.
One that's got no stickers, no badges, and has a 24 plate.
You don't get...
No stickers, no badges, and it's a 24 plate. So any car that came out last year, that was manufactured last year, that's what he's saying. No badges, no stickers, and it's a 24 plate. As though, and he said it just straight away as though he's some sort of expert.
Cars if you're on PIP, Paul.
You do.
You don't. You don't get
You're
cars if
on
you're on PIP.
independence payment, you get a brand new motor.
That's just not true, Paul. That's just completely untrue.
No.
What you think
You think
everybody who's on disability benefits gets given a brand new car?
If you want one, yeah.
Oh, that's mad. That's just balmy. That's not true. That's a downright false.
Because I had one.
But maybe you qualified for one, and I'm really sorry to hear that you've got cancer. Maybe you qualified.
It's all right, don't worry. But I still go to work.
All right.
Why can't these people go to work?
Where have you got the idea that anyone on disability benefits gets offered a free car?
The reason they can't go to work is because they're too poorly to go to work. And some people... Oh, my goodness me. This has got to be a setup. This has got to be a wind-up. Like a prank caller. You know, it's got to be. Please tell me these people, these waste of oxygen, they walk amongst us, don't they? They live among us.
If you qualify for PIP, of course you can go and get a brand spanking new car.
Oh my gosh. That's where have you got this nonsense from?
Now, can we get some feedback? I know we've got one or two people who are on PIP here in the chat as well. I can certainly say from my experience that I'm not familiar with any part of the application process containing an offer of a free vehicle. Of course, that's absolute nonsense. He's claiming that his gripe is that he gets one of these free PIP cars that he's just invented. He's got cancer, but he still has to work. there are other people who suffer from other conditions who can't go to work who receive the same form of benefit that he does. And he's somewhat envious. Is that what it is? Even if that is a genuine call, but I think that as much as the rest of the call could be absolute bollocks as well. Fondue, super. No, that's on Sundays, unfortunately. No fondue tonight. But sorry to hear about that incident in the restaurant. Please do spare us the details. So that's the end of the clip. How's about that, people? You know, I thought he was going to finish off with love to the family. Love to the family, mate. Love to the family. That was the real Colin from Portsmouth there. Something else. Where do they find these people? Right, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, there, thems and comrades alike, stick around. I'm going to see if there's anywhere to raid into. Slightly shorter stream than usual tonight, like I said. Just wanted to catch up on those bits. Please do hang around. Let's take a look, and as I do so, excuse me while I remove the chat and bring up the members once again. Thanks for those gifted memberships tonight. Wonderful stuff. Solidari-Tea. Please consider joining this list. It's just 99 pence. You get some great perks to enjoy. Check those out. And one final reminder. Please do make sure you hit the thumbs up button as well, people. Alright, we've got the excellent Kevin Logan to raid into, so stick around. Going over to see Kev shortly. I'll join you in the chat there. Briefly, people. So hang around for a raiderino, even. The Brew crew there. Awesome. Thanks for all of your support, people. Yes, so I'll be back with you on another live stream soon. Please keep an eye out for new content. There's going to be that exclusive members only video coming out before the end of the week as well. So do keep a lookout for that one. Join me over at Kevin Logan's channel, or if you have to get off, take care everybody. My left eye, be seeing you soon. Free Palestine. Power to the people. Also, quickly forgot to say credit to Cold War Steve for this picture. Just going to bring that around. Okay, people, I'll see you over on Kev's channel.